So last week on my Wax Carving Wednesday, I showed you how I melted this wax. Just have to set it in the right direction. Melted this wax in here so you can see right through there how it fits nice and tightly. So before I continue, I'm just going to expose, or to continue, I'm going to expose a little bit more and make sure that it's clean along this edge. And this is just going to expose that band. So along the back, just removing a tiniest bit of wax here. Now this particular band, so this is that fitted wedding band, and this particular one is fitted only on one side. It does not continue the pattern on. The wedding band is just going to be sitting flush. And the reason for that is it's going to be another band on the other side eventually. And comfort, right? This is going to help make it more comfortable. So I'm just exposing the little leaves that are on the engagement ring, making sure that everything is seen nicely, and I can see through where it's thin. That's how I know where to cut here. Just take that off. That's where the setting is. It's all good. There we go. Now, just fit this in the correct side here. There we go. So now I can see that all of my little diamonds are going to show when this is put together, and this will be soldered in place. One thing I'm going to do is, because this is really quite thin here, I'm going to taper. I'm making a thicker wedding band so that it has more durability overall. But I'm just going to take and taper the outside edge down just a little bit. And what that will do is make the band expose the the engagement ring just a little bit more. So in the grand scheme of things, the engagement ring will have a little bit more punch, because quite frankly, the most of this design is on the engagement ring. And it'll just help accentuate the design of the engagement ring instead of worrying about it there. Plus, when it comes to cleaning it, it'll clean a bit better. So I'm going to go with that. Now I just have to carve a parallel line on here. So first, when I melted this in, I don't know how even it was. So what I'm going to do, so I don't know how evenly it sank into the wax. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking my dividers, and I'm just going to draw a parallel line parallel to this outside edge here, and then decide if it's pretty close. If it's close, then that means I sank it pretty evenly. And if it's not close, then I didn't. There we go. So it's not bad as far as parallel goes, but I think I'm gonna, if it lines up there, I'm going to take a little bit more off than that. So I'm just going to open up my dividers a bit further and draw another parallel line along the edge there like that. There we go. Now I could file this. I could use dividers, but I'm going to use my coping saw blade. And let me just move the camera back just a little bit for you. And I'm just going to cut along that line, and I'm going to give it a little bit of room. So I'm not cutting on the second line, I'm cutting on the first line. And all that does is give me a line to file down to. Decreases or increases my decreases my margin of error, basically. A little bit more. So I never use spiral blades to cut wax. So this is the piece I just cut off. This is the piece I'm going to keep. And the reason for that is the spiral blades that are supposed to be for wax carving don't actually work very well. So first I'm going to clean my file. I'm just using a file card to do this. And I'm just going to check and see how even I am to my line. Always a good idea to have a very wide file so that the whole ring can fit on here. I'm just going to put my fingers over top of it, and I'm going to file that whole edge all at once. This is a very fine file, finer than most people would use for wax, but this really removes very little material. And I'll just keep going until I have no more nicks in the side. Just a smidgen more. There we go. So now that's the edge. And for comfort reasons, again, I am going to take and pull that wax out of the inside from when I melted it. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to round this edge a little bit for two reasons. On his band that I have to make, it is rounded on the top, so I'm going to round this one a little bit to make them a little bit more similar. And I just freehand this part. I have to sand it and everything afterwards anyways, so I just needed to be relatively close. You can see how I'm holding it in between my fingers like this. Just reduces my chances of breaking it, as opposed to holding it like this and pressuring it. This way I'm holding it all the way around nice and evenly. And quite frankly, somebody posted a message in one of my previous wax carvings about how working with giant fingers is crazy, right? But if you look at this case, my thumb and my finger is actually supporting this entire wax all at the same time, which is much better than if I had tiny little hands that might not be able to support the entire wax at once. So there are advantages to having, big hands when you're doing this, and there are also disadvantages. They're not always, sometimes having large hands just kind of get in the way. But for the most part, it's pretty reasonable. There we go. So let's just fit it in there again. So that's the wedding band there. That'll be cast in gold. You can see how it's nice and well fit. One thing I'm going to do before it goes, before it's cast, is I'm going to take a little off the inside on one side, and this is the outside edge. And the reason for that is it just takes the inside edge off. Semi-comfort is, it's just a little bit more comfortable for the client. And since she's going to be wearing this thing all the time, Taking a little off the inside doesn't hurt. There we go. So now I have this branch pattern on here, which is like this. That's her one engagement, her wedding band. And then eventually, if she does decide to get the other side done, which would make this more even, I will make another one exactly like this for the other side, but it'll have to be made individually to fit the other side of the ring. And when they're both white gold, it will actually give this ring quite a bit of substance, which will be nice. So for his band, when I do that one, which might be next week's, I will be looking at this line here and reincorporating this crisscross line and some of this branch work just on the top of his band. And then I will go from there. I think the other thing I have to do on this one is see if I can fit some moss agate. Yeah, this goes on this side. Or does it? Does go on this side. Yeah. See if I can fit a couple of moss agates in here. There's not a lot of room. So I'm not sure if you're even going to see it, but I'll figure that out later. Anyways, so that's how you do a fitted wedding band. I hope this was instructional.